We're just trying to find her.
10 years ago today, Crystal Rogers disappeared from Bardstown. It's a mystery that's haunted her family and shaken the tight-knit community ever since. Now, a decade later, 2 men charged in her disappearance are inching closer to a verdict. Thanks for joining us at 10. I'm Meredith Scheimer in for Casey Freeman. Both the prosecution and defense have now rested their case in the trial of Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson. With no cameras allowed inside the courtroom, WBKO's Brennan Crane tells us the key witnesses the defense called and prosecutors rebutted as attorneys clear the way for closing arguments next week.
After 8 days of court proceedings here in Bowling Green, the prosecution and defense teams for Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson have rested their cases, paving the way for closing arguments and then that highly anticipated period of jury deliberations. We heard from 2 expert witnesses today and 1 rebuttal witness on behalf of the Commonwealth. That first witness, a cognitive psychologist. He analyzed the Kentucky State Police interviews completed with Heather Snellen, the ex-girlfriend of Steve Lawson, and Charlie Girdley, that former employee of Brooks Houck. Now, why the defense focused in on these 2, they had information they testified about that could sway the jury to side with the prosecution. Defense attorneys asking that cognitive psychologist to break down tactics used by Kentucky State Police Detective Luckett. He used what's called the read technique, an aggressive form of interrogation that often gets people to confess to information. We also heard today from a former detective that worked with the Louisville Metro Police Department. He broke down parts of the investigation into the Crystal Rogers disappearance. The detective testifying today that no DNA was ever found and no physical trace evidence ever found that linked back to Crystal Rogers. Now, that final witness we heard from today, Rick Sanders, a rebuttal witness for the Commonwealth. He's the current police chief for an agency around Louisville. He has prior experience with the DEA and worked in Miami in the 80s. He says he's interviewed hundreds of people throughout his career, having never been trained on the read method. Prosecutor Shane Young asking him if he's ever touched anyone or hugged anyone. He responded yes. That entire examination lasting about 1.5 minutes, the defense declining to cross-examine him. Attorneys made last-ditch efforts on Thursday afternoon to get the cases thrown out, the indictments dismissed during a formal proceeding where they request what's called a directed verdict. That's when defense attorneys argue that the prosecution has not provided enough evidence to secure a conviction on the charges in the case. Now, members of the jury have been instructed to be back Monday morning at 9 a.m. At that time, they'll hear closing arguments from the defense team and prosecution. Kevin Coleman with Lawson's team expects to go about 1 hour. We also heard from Brooks Houck's attorney, Brian Butler. He says he'll try to get his closing in 2 hours. The prosecution will go after lunch. After that, the jury will be sent to deliberate on Tuesday. I'll be in the courtroom bringing you updates as normal. For now, in Bowling Green, Brennan Crane, WBKO News.